The football scene this weekend was absolutely wild. Overtime games all across the country, overtime games Sunday Night Football. So much to talk about, and we're going to do it all for this next hour right here on The Extra Point. I'm your host, Jordan York. Change over to the panel where we've got Jack Wilbur, Brian Warner, Griffin Barfield, and a new panelist today, Jackson Cash, making his first appearance of the season. And we're just going to dive right into our first topic. Obviously, sports, a big thing trending this weekend, so we're going to go back to the hashtag game. And our first topic for the hashtag game, probably the biggest game of Saturday night, Oregon and Penn State. Oregon beat Penn State in an epic game, double overtime in Happy Valley. The Drew Aller interception sealed the deal. Wow, that was quite the mouthful. But what are your guys' thoughts on that one?
You know, I'll kick it off. I'm going to say hashtag Bo Pribula. That was the backup for Penn State last year. He is the starter for the Missouri Tigers, who are 5-0 this season. I think that James Franklin picked the wrong quarterback to put into the transfer portal because Penn State now has lost their last 3 games off of a Drew Aller interception. I don't think this Penn State team is a national championship team. I don't think James Franklin is a top-tier head coach. I think all of us can kind of come to that consensus now. Penn State had everything against them, and they did not win. It was the whiteout. It was a night game. College game day was there. They had everything against them to win, and they didn't. And I think if this guy was their quarterback, I think they would have ended up winning that game. I think that he's the better quarterback than Drew Aller, and you're going to see that as the season goes on.
All right, I'll go next. My hashtag James Franklin. On the last episode of this show, I said, James Franklin, if you lose this game, I will never pick you ever again, even if you play Villanova. And that is what I have come to, because this is ridiculous. You are now, I think, like 4-21 or 22 against top 6 or top 10 opponents. You are 0-4 in Penn State's most attended games or whiteout games. That's ridiculous. Most attended games in a stadium that holds about like 100,000 people, and you're 0-4. I was already basically out on James Franklin, but I was like, you know what? This team is really good on paper. Home game, Oregon, whiteout. They got to win this game. Hashtag James Franklin. Hashtag I'm so done with you.
I'm going to sit with hashtag fraud. And I know a thing or two about frauds. But I would say that this is really disappointing, especially for Drew Aller. You're trying to raise your draft stock. You play your first real team, because before this was Nevada, Villanova, and FIU, Florida International. Mm-hmm. So you're not playing really top-tier teams, but your team showed out. However, in those 3 games, you didn't really impress. Those teams are the ones that you're supposed to be able to stamp your name on, show that you have the talent, and build up your confidence, your resume, however you want to put it. And he didn't. He combined for a total of 629 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception against FIU, Villanova, and why did I just blank on who I said? Nevada. I wanted to say it again just because they're so, there shouldn't be teams that you should be
terrible
4
opponents,
against, right? You come into Oregon, you have the game on the line in overtime, and you throw a ball into double coverage. Now, it is tough because there was a linebacker who was underneath who happened to jump up, and it's tough to see. It's white out, it's white shirts, it's just tough to see anyway. But still, as a quarterback like that, you shouldn't be throwing that type of ball, even if the DB is over top of your receiver when it was, first down, I believe?
I think it was first down, yeah.
And then on top of that, James Franklin, why aren't you choosing to run it? Even if you're not the one making the decisions, you can override and say, hey, we have 2 backs back here, averaging 5 yards a carry at least, if not 8. Why not run it on first down? Because you would be good. First down, run it, try and push it, see what happens. And then the last resort is to make Drew Aller throw, because obviously we've seen that he cannot throw the ball, at least not as good as people like to hype him up. And his main reason that he can throw it so well is because he's predicated on the ground game, on the running game. 2 great backs in this nation. So long story short, I would say hashtag fraud, because this showed that Penn State is not ready to compete yet, even if they do make it to the playoffs.
I saw a fact that said Drew Aller in the last 3 games, I think, against their top 10 opponents or whatever, the game has ended off a Drew Aller interception into double coverage on first down. First down against Oregon, he throws a pick. First down against Notre Dame, throws a pick. And then I think the last one before that was also Oregon in the Big Ten championship. Wow. All of them ended with him throwing an interception in double coverage.
Almost as good as the one Caden brought up last week when he said, if Drew Aller were to take a kneel.
The QBR rating. Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, no, I kind of sense from the panelists here that some people are shifting blame to Aller for the pick and some are going on James Franklin. I did hashtag can't win the big game. We've seen this throughout Franklin's career at Penn State. They cannot win a big game against a top 10 opponent. Honestly, the more, like last year in the playoffs, obviously everyone was surprised that they made it as far as they did in the playoffs. I think James Franklin was probably the most surprised that Penn State got as far as they did. Obviously, Drew Aller, of course, was like one of the Heisman frontrunners this year, and they've played some, pretty average, pretty horrible opponents this year, and he hasn't really done much. This game last night, or Saturday night, was Drew Aller's big moment to say, I am here for the Heisman, playing against Oregon, who obviously is a top 10 team, and honestly one of the toughest, teams playing in the country. And you have a whiteout at Happy Valley at night. That is one of the obviously the most electrifying environments in college football. And yet they still can't get it done, even with the hardest environment to play in. And you managed to throw a pick in the last part of the game. I mean, the pick was very brutal. I mean, obviously you should not have thrown that ball. But, I think this game is more on James Franklin's coaching ability because he beats who he's supposed to beat. But if he's on the underdog, he's going to be the underdog the entire game. He can't win. And that's the problem with Penn State. If they want to compete, I think Franklin's either got to change his game or maybe it's time to let him go.
Absolutely, and I feel like a lot of people are going to argue that it shouldn't be James Franklin's fault, except the biggest thing is that it's happened year after year with different people at different positions.
It's predictable no matter who's playing quarterback.
Correct, or no matter who's on the field with him. It's just there's a common denominator, and that happens to be James Franklin.
I'm gonna give credit though. You got to give credit to Oregon. Dante Moore had an incredible game. Dan Lanning had his team prepared. He was smiling when they were running out. They did a heck of a job. It's going to be them in Ohio State for the Big Ten.
Does this make Dante Moore the Heisman favorite?
Yes, he is.
Yeah,
yes.
right now, yeah.
He is. It's
Beck,
him, Ty Simpson, and then Carson Beck.
Brian and I were kind of on the same wavelength here because I said bald fraud for mine. I don't know if you can see that. But I said bald fraud because it is a James Franklin problem. I saw there was a tweet somebody made. He was 1-17 against top 5 teams, 4-21 against top 10, has a losing record against ranked opponents in his tenure at Penn State. He is the problem. We've seen it with Drew Aller. We've seen it with Trace McSorley. We've seen it with Sean Clifford. We've seen it when they had Saquon Barkley and they still couldn't win the big one. There are just so many issues, and they all stem from him. It doesn't matter whether you're playing in a whiteout where you've won your last 6 games. Okay, great. It's a whiteout. You kind of should win all of your games, and the fact that they're 11-7 now, I think it is, in whiteouts, just not good enough. It's a James Franklin problem. Bald fraud. Moving on, though, I think Friday night delivered one of the most wild highlights I've ever seen. Virginia beats Florida State, plays a near perfect game. It was reminiscent of like Vanderbilt, Alabama a year ago. And of course, we'll get to that later on. But UVA, shocker, in Charlottesville, and then the storming the field after was unlike anything I've ever seen. Guys, what was your reaction when that happened?
I'm going to say hashtag Tony Ball. Shout out Tony Elliott. I know that we're a Clemson broadcast group, so we're obviously going to be talking about that. That was a very well done game, and that was an incredible court storm as well. That's something that you see in college basketball when the clock strikes zeros and they're booking it. That's what it felt like, and that felt like a basketball school in UVA. I think Florida State, we're going to end up losing a game somehow in the ACC. I think that is just how sometimes transfer teams are. That's sometimes how Norvell teams are. But I think that they'll bounce back, and they need to bounce back because they're hosting Miami, that's going to be a top 20 game ACC? 18 versus 3. You got to go right back to it. You got to flush it, and I think Norvell's going to get those guys good.
Yeah, so I wrote on mine, I wrote Tony Elliott with an exclamation mark. I said that so many times when he was the offensive coordinator here. I was stressed out every single time. Obviously, I can Garrett Riley now, so I'm kind of regretting that decision. But, what a game. I saw that game on Friday night. I was bored out of my mind, so I turned it on. Did not expect that game to be even as close as it was. But I think this game's not really more on Virginia's ability to play. I think it's on FSU and Norvell. Some days they will look like the best team in college football, dropping 70 points, beating Bama at home after going 2-10 the previous year, and yet they go into Charlottesville, a game they definitely should have won, and lose to Virginia, which obviously with that field rush, fans have been waiting years for that. So the question I think with this game is, Norvell is the most unpredictable coach, I think, in college football because they went 2-10 last year, and then the year previous, they were barred out of a CFP spot because of an injury to a quarterback. I just don't see this FSU team really being that threatening. I do see them still competing for an ACC championship appearance. Obviously, if Miami falters or Georgia Tech, obviously they lost to Syracuse, but wait, no, they didn't lose to Syracuse. Who did they play?
They barely beat Wake Forest.
Yeah, they barely beat. Wait, wow, that's even worse. But
Their interception.
yeah, this is a props to Tony Elliott for what he's doing in Virginia. I mean, obviously they're looking like a pretty good ball club with that win against Florida State, but I don't know. Norvell's looking a little shaky right now.
Do you want to go or you want me to go?
I'll let you go. You're more
All right, I cheated on this one because I wrote 3. So, hashtag Sage Ennis, hashtag Tony Elliott, my GOAT, hashtag greatest field rush of all time. I'll go really quick. Sage Ennis, former Clemson tight end, forgotten. He transferred or was transferring to FAMU. Their coach left. And then Tony Elliott snagged him, and he scored a touchdown against FSU. That's my dog. Hashtag Tony Elliott, my GOAT. I hate FSU as a Clemson fan. I will show bias here, even if we're not supposed to, but I'm a Clemson student. I've been a Clemson fan since I was little. I hate FSU. I love Tony Elliott, so that was great. Also a very well-coached team right now. They look really good. He's also retained like every member on his staff these past couple of years, which I find very impressive in today's college football world. And then hashtag greatest field rush of all time. Watching him intercept the ball and then all of those fans just burst onto the field. That was the greatest thing I think I've ever seen in college football.
Poor Squirrel White got like.
Yeah, Squirrel White. All right. Has he been found?
It was like 1 second you see him, next second he's like 5'11". He's
Yeah.
gone.
He's
Full
gone.
of orange and navy.
But I went 2 as well. I went double, but I wasn't as positive. I focused more on FSU. My first one was hashtag keep your eyes on the ball, and my second one was hashtag GT versus Miami ACC championship game. Because that second one I kind of am hoping. I think that'd be kind of a fun one to watch. But for the keep your eyes on the ball, Deuce Robinson. He's 6'6", 236. He has had an excellent game. 9 catches, 147 yards, and a touchdown. But he dropped the most pivotal ball in all of the game. It doesn't matter what you do from quarter 1 to whatever it is down 2 minutes. It's all about the pivotal game. And on the pivotal play that he needed, which was, I believe, a streak route, I think, up the right side, he had beat his man. Tommy threw a great ball right to him, and he just drops it. Right in the hands, drops it. But then he catches it. It's like a bobble. Because I can't say drop. It is a bobble. It was a true bobble. But he doesn't get defeated, doesn't have possession, and then he celebrates in front of the Virginia fans like he just did something. And I'm like, dude, you didn't keep your eye on the ball. You didn't catch the ball. Then you celebrate about it. And I get it. Confidence is key. It kind of sways the refs, kind of like a UFC fight. But to me, it's like you got to make sure you catch it. We saw that with Adonai Mitchell and the Colts as well. Make sure you catch the ball first and then celebrate. You want to make sure your celebration is way after the play. Go to the sideline, go somewhere else, go to the bathroom. I don't care. Celebrate somewhere else, but not when you're trying to score in the process of securing the ball. Now, with that being said, Virginia had an excellent win. I was so happy. My roommate's an FSU fan. He came down. He's coming back from work, and he's just like, Brian, I'm melted down. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, yeah, you want to come watch the end of this game? I said, sure, because I wasn't really watching the game much. I had it on in the background. It was kind of like that thing. He said, come down and watch it. I watched the last 2 minutes. FSU goes down, they score the touchdown, and then I ended up watching the overtime. And when I saw Tommy throw the ball up for that overtime ball, and I just saw the Virginia guy catch it, I was like, thank you. I'm so excited. We won't have to hear my roommate anymore saying FSU's king and that, they're better than Clemson, which sadly it is, but that's beside the point. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun. It was a great game, probably one of the best in my opinion. I actually liked it more than the Oregon Penn State. Oregon Penn State was great, but I think we expected a good game. I don't think anyone expected a good game from FSU versus Virginia, especially an upset win. So for me, that's the best game of the week.
Yeah, I kind of hit with my hashtag a point y'all really didn't talk about much, and I said hashtag safety issue. Again, don't know if y'all can see that. But Squirrel White nearly got Astro-worlded on Friday night. I mean, that was just insane. Yeah. He's laying down on the ground frustrated because, he dropped the ball, lost the game, and he's getting trampled by Virginia fans. He could have very easily been seriously injured, could have very easily been out of action for a while. It was good to see that he ended up, he was on his feet and walking off with the help of Florida State, I guess, security people or whatever. But you got to have some sort of a barrier. There's a reason the ACC made a rule that they're fining you for field storming if you choose to do so, and before the opponents get off the field. I mean, that's the whole point. That's exactly what they're trying to prevent, and we just saw the crystal clear reason why they made that rule. But Moving on, we're going to keep this next one short and sweet, although it does hit close to home because I am a Cowboys fan. Micah Parsons returned to Dallas. He didn't have his best game, and Dallas and Green Bay walked away with a 40-40 tie in overtime. I don't think anybody expected that, but what did y'all think?
I'm going to say hashtag no pack no. They just haven't really been playing well over the last 2 weeks. And with who they're playing with Dallas, I think that if they were able to get a defensive stop down the stretch, I just don't think that, I'm sorry, Jordan, but I just do not trust the Dallas defense. I don't really like how the Packers are trending. They lost to Cleveland last week after starting 2-0, so it makes you think, what is Matt LaFleur going to turn with this team going forward? So that's what I will be interested to see going forward.
I had two again because I had a really funny one that I want to throw in there. So my main one was underwhelming, and my second one was tiring, Tiering. They kind of play into each other. First off, the underwhelming return of Micah Parsons. Everyone built it up. Obviously, it was supposed to be so good. He finished with 3 total tackles, one of them being a sack, 0 tackle for losses. Dallas did a great, phenomenal job at keeping him contained. Now, on the flip side, he did have an injury during the game, but he did return, and he made I think his 1 sack was the tackle to prevent Dak Prescott from scoring the touchdown at the end. So he did have a great stop at that play, but I just think overall it was underwhelming. But to me, the most underwhelming part, which is also why I said the tiring, was the fact that it ended in a tie. I stay up all night, almost till midnight practically. It's like 11:50. We all did. And they end with a 40-40 tie. I just felt unsettled. I felt like the game wasn't over, and I felt like I witnessed 4 hours of football just to sit back and they could have literally just kept the exact same score. It could have been 0-0. And I'm like, I wish they just changed overtime rules to just playing a whole nother quarter. I hate it when players are playing their hearts out. They sit there. They're playing for, an hour long? If you include breaks, it's up to 3 hours because that's it. You're not including being on the field and everything else. But an hour of game time, and it comes down to 10 minutes. And at the end of the 10 minutes, if both teams happen to have the same score again, it's just a tie. I hate that. I think they should just continue playing another quarter until the game's decided by the winner.
I'm going to follow up on that because I'm kind of on the same train. I also, once again, cheated. I have 2. I'll do my bottom one really quick. Hashtag why did I bench Dak? I benched him in fantasy football. I'm now going to lose because of that decision. My other one is hashtag I just did kind of like the emoji with the straight face. And this is for multiple reasons. 1, the Micah Parsons revenge game was, like you said, very underwhelming. 2, the biggest thing to me is the fact that this game ended in a tie, like you said. We live in America. This is an American sport. Tying/drawing is for European soccer. Why in the NFL do we still have the chance for a tie? In college football, I love the rules, even after they changed it to like the 2 point conversions. I just love that the fact that when these players are, like you said, playing their heart out for so long, that at the end of the day, somebody wins and somebody gets that satisfaction. Yes, it sucks for the other side, but that's sports. We play to win. Why are we still tying in the Big 2025?
Yeah, I wrote hashtag embarrassing for mine. This is not towards the Cowboys. I think the great offense but kind of bad defense was kind of expected of the Cowboys. Sorry, Jordan, it's okay. I think that this Packers team is the most confusing team in football right now. I mean, they went into week 1 playing the Lions, who obviously lost their offensive coordinator, which might have hurt them the first week, and they end up stunning probably the entire nation as they beat the Lions. And then they go the next week and beat, the runners-up in the NFC Championship in the Commanders. So everyone was, really hype on them the first 2 weeks. And then they go and play the Browns, and they look like the same Packers team that went like 9-8 a few years ago. Like, it was the most confusing game. And then they go into Dallas, and they're playing against, obviously Micah Parsons' former team. So you expect Micah Parsons to have a revenge game. Packers come up big on this game, and it ends up being a 40-40 tie. Honestly, it's kind of like not even a revenge game at this point. This Packers team is the most confusing team. I mean, their defense has all the guys that they need. They got Micah Parsons. They got a guy on defense that they can use to absolutely whoop butt on any other team. But yet somehow they still have 40 points scored on Micah Parsons. Honestly, I don't even know with this Packers team anymore. They've obviously got a few things with Matt LaFleur to figure out. I think he's a great coach, but I think sometimes he gets in over his head and it just panics, and that game was what that was last night. But I think their offense is fantastic. I think their offense is pretty good, but that defense, they got to figure something out.
Mine was numbers don't lie, because we have a top 3 offense in the NFL. Dak Prescott is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I will debate anybody on that. When he's healthy, he is statistically a superior quarterback. But our defense is god-awful. I mean, if you have to put up 40 to tie or barely win a game, you're not going to be able to win very many games in the NFL. That's just not how the way the league is structured. And so Dallas has a lot to fix defensively, but, long season ahead. But moving on, we're going to switch segments now to buy or sell. And I want y'all to keep this quick. One sentence. I'm going to ask you a question. You can either agree and say why, or you can disagree, tell me who and why. So, first, Ole Miss is the team to beat in the SEC. Yay or nay, and why?
I'm going to go sell on this one. I mean, I love Ole Miss, and I'm glad that they beat LSU because obviously we lost to them. But let's be real. The more this season has gone on, the LSU win against the Tigers has looked less and less impressive. So for me, I think LSU losing that game to Ole Miss, I think it was just coming. I think everyone kind of saw it. I mean, Ole Miss is ranked higher than LSU, and yet LSU was still the underdogs going into that game. So I don't think that game surprised anyone that LSU lost that game. But do I think Ole Miss is the best team in the SEC? Not even close. I think they're up there for top 5, but the SEC looks a little bit weak this year. Like all the teams are really just eating each other alive right now. And I think the best team is a team we'll talk about later.
There have been 2 teams that have won 10 of the last 11 SEC championships. Those 2 are going to be the top 2 until innocent and proven guilty. That's Alabama and Georgia. Right now it's Alabama 1A, Georgia 1B. Alabama did the impossible. They went, They went 13 for 19 when all quiet on the Western Front was playing every third down. Sorry, I'm going on a little bit of a tangent. I apologize. I'm very passionate about this. They just looked like a completely new team, and they did something that no team has done in Georgia before COVID, and that was win a game at Sanford Stadium. Well done to Alabama. Georgia is going to be up there too. Those are the top 2. I don't think Ole Miss cracks the top at all.
I got sell. I did pick Ole Miss to win last week, but at the same time, you got to take it with a grain of salt. LSU, I feel like, has not played their best ball, and I think Ole Miss also had the advantage of home field and a little bit of fire underneath Lane Kiffin for Family Matters. So I'm actually going to say top dogs either between Alabama, Georgia, or LSU. I'm leaning more towards Alabama right now. They showed up. They did something, like you said, that has not been done in 33 games, I believe, which was win and beat Georgia in Georgia. So I have Alabama right now at the top of the list for SEC. But I do think it is close. This is a very competitive conference, especially with Vandy now in the top 16, right?
I'm also going to sell. But like Brian, I did pick Ole Miss, so pat on our backs there. But like Griffin said, it's Alabama or Georgia until proven otherwise. We have no reason to believe that it won't be one of those 2 again. And honestly, I think this LSU team is very overrated. Their defense is very good, don't get me wrong. But now Brian Kelly has an offensive issue, which is ironic considering the past few years. He's had an incredible offense and a terrible defense. He can't seem to get it right. So I'm going to sell and say that LSU and Ole Miss are in the 2nd tier of the SEC.
I think Ole Miss has a shot to make the SEC championship game. I really do. I think Trinidad Chambliss, I've doubted him for a while because he's the D2 transfer from the national champions. It's a big jump from D2 to D1. He's continued to impress every step of the way. So I think they can get to the SEC championship game, but I think they lose to Georgia. I still think Georgia is the best team in the SEC. I think aside from the fact they can't beat Alabama's going to play themselves out of it. I don't think they're going to have to worry about that. We saw how good Georgia was on the road against Tennessee. We've seen over the last 5 years how good Georgia's been. It's just really hard to bet against the Dogs. So I'm going to stick with them until they play their way out of it, and I don't think that's going to happen. But now, from the SEC to the ACC, we've got a Cartoon Network matchup to talk about. Clemson and North Carolina, your take to discuss as brief as possible. Clemson beats UNC by 20 plus, yay or nay?
Sell. It'll probably end up being a close game in UNC. I think we will end up winning that game, hopefully, because, come on, let's beat Bill Belichick. I just want to have that over UNC, but I think Clemson will end up winning the game. I think they'll get their first victory in, what feels like forever at this point since beating Troy. I think the Tiger team, I think this bye week should help them out so much, and I think they need to get their crap together because it's starting to look really awful right now, and this is not Dabo's way of playing Clemson football. I think going into UNC, if they can get this victory against a guy that won 6 Super Bowls in the NFL, will be monstrous for the team, especially morale. And just that, even put maybe an ACC championship, hopefully revival, because right now ACC I think will eat themselves alive. But I got Clemson still winning the game. I'm going selling this, but I think it'll be a close game until maybe late in the fourth quarter.
Griffin, can I actually cut you off? Can I follow up on that? Okay, so you said that you are thinking that this bye week is going to be huge for Clemson. So first off, I'm also selling very quickly. Here are Clemson's last 4 games coming off of a bye week. This is something I have noticed and taken note of before. So last year, 11-24, L to Louisville at home night game. Louisville was 5-3. And we lost 33-21, and the score doesn't even reflect that game. We got our butts whooped. Before that, it was a win to NC State. That NC State team was very bad, and that was when Clemson was beating up on terrible opponents. 10-21, 20-23. L at Miami, we went to overtime. This is a Miami team that wasn't that good. I'm pretty sure they finished like 6-6 or 7-5. And we lost to them 28-20 in overtime because Cade Klubnik decided to run the ball instead of handing it off, even though that was not the play. And then before that, 11-5, 2022, L at Notre Dame, 35-14. This is a Notre Dame team that lost to Marshall at home. These past couple of years, we have not been able to perform off of bye weeks, and I find that very concerning, especially when going on the road. So I think we win this game, and I think it is an ugly win.
I'm going to go really quickly again. Both teams are coming off the bye. I mean, that generally doesn't happen. I don't think either of these teams are going to win by 3 scores. I'm going to say sell too.
I'm selling. I do think we'll win. I also put down there no Bojangles, no trust. Clemson has yet to put up more than 28 points, which if you have not been to a game, it means that we would get free blueberry muffins or something like that, right?
Blueberry biscuit.
Blueberry
biscuit.
Blueberry biscuit. I knew there was a special name. But yeah, I mean, they're averaging under 20 points a game, so how do I expect them to have a 20-plus point win? I just can't, especially away.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I'm going to buy, partially because I'm picking with my heart, partially because I think UNC really is that bad. I think coaching in the NFL and coaching in college are 2 completely different things. I think Dabo, this time, I like that Jack mentioned the stats about the bye, but now Clemson has something to prove. This isn't a team that is sitting at the top 10 in the rankings and can afford a loss. This is a team that people are flaming as perhaps one of the biggest preseason busts in college football history compared to the likes of Florida State last season. So I think Clemson has something to prove, and I think they do it. I think they get it done. I think it sets up for a good matchup where they should take care of Boston College, and then they'll come home and see SMU here in Death Valley. But our final buy or sell for today, Ashton Jeanty had 3 touchdowns yesterday. He now has 4 on the season, but the running back out of Boise State made a huge impact in the Raiders' victory. They did win against Chicago, right? Yeah, 25-24.
They
lost. They lost because of the blocked field goal. Yeah, so all that, and they still couldn't get it done. But the question is, has Ashton Jeanty arrived?
I think so. I'm going to sell it. I mean, you said top 5 running back. I think Josh Jacobs, Bijan, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, and Saquon are all better. I mean, you could tell McCaffrey. I think there are some good rookies out there, too. I'm a Giants fan, so I'm going to be biased. Cam Scadaboo's up there as well. I think maybe top 10, not top 5. I'm going to sell.
Yeah, I'll go sell on this one as well. I think that list right there was perfect. I think those are definitely the top 5 backs in the league. I think at the end of the year, I think he'll be the best running back, the best rookie running back for this draft class. I think Cam Scadaboo is great, but I think just Jeanty is just way better of an athlete. But I think this game, I mean, yet again, they played, who was it they played?
Chicago.
Yeah, they played Chicago. Chicago's known for being kind of a fluke team. So honestly, him getting 3 touchdowns on Chicago doesn't really surprise me, let alone makes me think he's the top 5 back in the league. I mean, he'll probably have to play some better opponents. I want to see what he does against Kansas City whenever they eventually play them, because if he can go off against the Kansas City defense, which is probably top 10, yeah. They're pretty good. They're known for being great at stopping the run as well. So unless he can do it against a great team other than the Bears, then we might see himself mixed in that conversation.
I'm going to sell. I think Ashton Jeanty, I don't know. I'm a little torn on this question because I think Ashton Jeanty, talent-wise, by the end of the season will be top 5. But overall consensus, I don't even know if this makes sense, but I'm saying not top 5 because of how bad the Raiders' offensive line is. The Bears' defensive line isn't that good. It's not terrible, but it's not great. I just think this Raiders' offensive line is going to hold them back. And so at the end of the day, I'm choosing him not to be a top 5 running back, but mainly because of the team around him.
I feel like this panel's turned into a flea market because we're all just selling right now. I'm going to say sell as well. I'm going to piggyback on what you said. The offensive line does not look good for the Raiders, especially in the first 2 weeks. Now, they've gotten slightly better, but, I mean, what's slightly better than worse? Still bad. I think they're ranked 28th in rushing offensive line as far as that goes. And then on top of that, if you look at Chicago's defense, Chicago's run defense is like 26th in the NFL. So you're really just putting bad offensive line versus bad defense. Yes, Genty's able to take advantage of that, but I think he's arrived. I just don't think he's going to be top 5 by the end of the year. For that reason, I'm selling. Now, they do have the Titans, the Colts, the Chiefs are 3 of their next matchups. I don't know exactly what order, but it's going to be those 3. I can see him popping off against some of those teams, obviously, because I don't think the run defense is going to be a difficult, or at least the run defense won't be as challenging. The biggest game I think that will be the most challenging for him is facing against DeForest Buckner. Good grief. DeForest Buckner. I think he's going to be the most challenging just because he's probably the best D tackle outside of Chris Jones. But I do think the Colts defense is a little bit more run-centric to be able to stop the run this year than the Chiefs right now, but it is very close.
I'm going to say Ashton Genty has arrived, but he's not a top 5 running back. He's just too young, and it took him long enough to show up. He had a rough first couple weeks to the season. He finally had his breakout game yesterday, but I think there's just too many consistent guys, veterans in the league. You talked about Jacobs, Bijan, Taylor, James Cook you'd throw in there, Saquon, obviously. There's just too many guys, so I think top 5, bit of a stretch, but best rookie running back, I think that is without a doubt. So we're going to move to game picks now. It's all about the U. Miami and Florida State. Not game day because probably Florida State losing on Friday night cost them game day in Tallahassee. So the number 18 Noles coming off a really bad loss, taking on a number 3 Miami team that people are saying is back. It's the Miami of old. Carson Beck, Thomas Castellanos, Noles Canes. Who you got?
I'll begin. I was at Doak Campbell Stadium last year for Clemson FSU. There were renovations going on, and it was just as electric. Put that whole upper bowl back in. I think FSU is going to win this game. Like you said, game day is not going to be there, but there is going to be just a lot of buzz around the place, and I think that this team is going to learn a lot about what they were doing after this loss. Yes, it's Miami. It's Carson Beck. He's played in these atmospheres before. I just never trust Miami in a big game. I thought Notre Dame was going to win. They didn't. I think just Florida State's going to turn a different switch, and you're going to see how they played, like they played against Alabama. They're going to go in, play Miami, get a win.
I think FSU should grab the raincoats because I think a hurricane's are brewing. I got Miami. I just really like how Miami's going. This is tough for me because I was going back and forth in my head whether I want FSU, whether I want Miami. And honestly, I think just with Carson Beck, I did not expect Miami to come back and have the same fire they had last year, even with all the talent on their roster, just because they didn't have the quarterback position set. And with losing Ward and gaining Carson Beck, I was not expecting them to make this type of jump and this type of skill or like domination through their first few weeks. I have Miami winning. I think it's going to be a close game. I would not be shocked at all if this comes down to an overtime thriller once again. It is going to be tough in Doak Stadium, or is it Doak Stadium?
Doak Campbell.
Doak Campbell.
Yeah, I always mispronounce it. But I would not be shocked if it does come down to that, but that's going to be a huge factor. And I really love, one of my X factors is Bain on the defensive line for Miami. The dude is an absolute stud. I'm hoping the Ravens tank for him because I would love him as a pass rusher. We haven't had anyone since Sugg. But off that tangent, I do think Miami will take this in a close battle.
Yeah, I will obviously take the team with the worst duck mascot. Go with Miami here. I obviously am not a fan of either one of these teams, obviously being a Clemson Tiger myself. But I think Miami right now, they've got probably one of the best offenses in the game right now with Carson Beck at the helm. And I think with obviously him playing in the SEC, he's used to these big game environments. So I think Doak Campbell will be a little bit just under what a normal SEC game will be. But I still think the FSU crowd will definitely be a challenge for him. But I'm looking more at FSU in this game here. I think they're a great team. This Virginia loss is obviously going to hurt them for a little bit. But like what we've seen before time and time again, whenever Norvell loses or whenever he gets put under pressure, he typically tends to fold. They don't do well after big-time losses because obviously a few years ago when they lost their bid to the CFP, half their team basically gave up and they said, we're not doing this anymore, we're basically rejecting, and they got beat the brakes off of by Carson Beck and Georgia. So I think that Miami's going to take this game. I think the best offense probably in the ACC is going to light them up.
I am very regrettably taking FSU. I am not confident in this pick, but I think, like you said, I think this environment is going to be chaotic. There were reports that College Game Day was going to FSU for this game. And then Friday night happened, and then Sunday rolls around, and all of a sudden, they're going to Bama and Vandy. I have never seen a fan base so upset over College Game Day. There were rumors that Lee Corso was going to make a guest appearance as the guest picker on College Game Day. There was all of this stuff. And now they're not going there. I think this FSU team is going to be very, very pissed off. This is a team that I think will bounce back. But like you said, Norvell has struggled a little bit, coming off of some hard times. But this game will decide FSU's season. Either they bounce back here and they win, or I could see them tumbling and kind of a snowball effect for the rest of the season. But I'm putting my faith in FSU, and I have a lot of friends that go to FSU. So there you go.
I always like being the one to, break the tie in the panel. 2-2. I'm going Florida State because the truest and the greatest home field advantage in sports is college football. We see it week after week after week. There's a reason we've seen a field storming every week is because a home crowd in a 60, 70, $80,000 or 80,000 person, not dollar, they're millions of dollars, but 60, 70, 80,000 person stadium is unmatched. And then you get to the big dogs like LSU 105. I mean, it's just impossible to play in that. But Florida State, newly renovated Doak Campbell, the biggest game they've had in newly renovated Doak Campbell. And I think the Miami curse is Mario Cristobal. It doesn't go away. Noles win. I'm going to segue here now, though. I'm going to mention a singer for a brief moment because I'm getting a little deja vu. Alabama beats Georgia and is set for a matchup with Vanderbilt. We all know what happened when these teams met last year. It made the headline. It probably won the SB for the moment of the year or the upset of the year or something like that. But this year's different. Vanderbilt's ranked. Vanderbilt's unbeaten. Number 16 in the country, number 10 in the country, game day in Tuscaloosa. Does Vanderbilt do it a second time, or has Bama figured it out?
I'm going to say no. I think a loss, again, that's kind of why I picked Florida State as well. I've kind of come to the realization that losses rewire people, and Alabama just looks like a completely different monster. I'm going to go back to Georgia again. No team goes 13 for 19 on third down conversions in an away environment, let alone in an SEC environment. I was dumbfounded by the way Alabama was able to move the ball. I think Ty Simpson's a real deal, too. He's the second front runner in the Heisman vote. I think that he could end up being sitting in those seats in New York City. I think that he has the receivers to do so. Jam Miller's back. Kalen DeBoer is an offensive mastermind, let alone Alabama is at home as well. I don't think they lose at home. DeBoer doesn't lose at home with Alabama. Roll Tide.
This is the first time these teams have matched up under a ranked battle, both teams being ranked since 1937. And as much as my heart wants to pick Vandy, theoretically, Alabama's the best bet. So I have Alabama winning. They just look dominant, like we said before. We've been harping on this the whole episode, or the whole show. It's just they looked so good last week in Georgia against Georgia. And even though Georgia's not led by Carson Beck or Stetson Bennett, but they're still led by Gunnar Stockton and they're still coached by Kirby Smart. That is still a top dog, not only in the SEC, but in the country. So for Alabama to go in there and prove what they proved last weekend, it gave me more confidence in them than probably any other team that I watched last week. For that reason, I do have to pick Alabama. Plus, I would love to see another play or another pass to Caden Proctor.
That was
Please,
awesome.
Please,
That was
pass the ball to
awesome.
Caden
That was
more.
awesome.
I would love to see that. But yeah, I have Alabama winning this. I think Vandy might put up a fight, but honestly, my head's kind of telling me that it's probably going to be about a 14-point game. I think Alabama's going to want to make a statement and show that Vandy's not in the same field as them when it comes to football.
No, Vandy is not winning. As much as I would love to pick them, they're not winning this game. If this Alabama team does not remember what happened to them last year, I would be very shocked. I expect this to be a blowout. I expect Vandy to be going home very sad and depressed because they got so destroyed. This Alabama team, like you said, looks like a different monster now. And I think now that Vandy's kind of getting that recognition, this is not a game you take lightly anymore. Vandy used to be the doormat of the SEC, but now it's like, hey, they're pretty good. They've got Diego Pavia. I think people are going to watch a lot more film on them and really dissect them more. Because honestly, before, like, no disrespect to Vandy, but they were terrible for so long. Alabama could not even scout the game and usually go in and win. Now, shout out to Clark Lee of Vanderbilt. I do love what he's doing there, but I think this is a game Alabama is prepared for. They know what they're going up against, and they steamroll.
Yeah, I obviously am seeing deja vu in this matchup, and obviously we're heading to Tuscaloosa this time to see the game. But give me Vanderbilt and give me the Vandy pimp himself, Diego Pavia, to get this win. Listen, sorry, Grant, I'm sorry about this. Listen, I thought, obviously the Alabama-Georgia game was crazy, but so was the game last year. in Tuscaloosa. And Alabama obviously got it done with a crazy game last year and then with a dominant game this year. But I think this is the fact. Kirby Smart cannot beat Bama. He literally cannot beat Bama at all for some reason, no matter who's playing there. I mean, the one time he's beat him is when they had the best defense in the country for one of the top 5 teams in 25 years. So I think that Georgia just cannot beat Alabama. I think that that's more of a statement loss for Georgia of just time and time again. Kirby just cannot beat the Tide. But I got this game. What a bigger moment for Vanderbilt to finally get their glory than to beat Alabama in Alabama against the team that they beat last year and shot the entire world when, yet again, Bama was the #1 team in the country. Alabama comes off a win against Georgia. I think they're going to be too high and they're going to come back down when they play Vandy. I think this time and time again, Kalen DeBoer, he's very unpredictable at Bama because they'll play some great games and then they will stink it up against Oklahoma, FSU, and honestly Vanderbilt for obvious reasons. So I got Vanderbilt winning this game. I got Diego Pavia putting his mark on the SEC. And I think once all is said and done, I think Vanderbilt might be the best team in the SEC. I'll take that statement. I'll say it.
Wow, wild statement. I'm not taking Vanderbilt, although Alabama's upcoming schedule is brutal. After this, they go on the road to Missouri. They're home for Tennessee. They go on the road to Columbia. They play LSU, and then they'll play Oklahoma. And theoretically, John Mateer will be back for that. So Bama's upcoming schedule doesn't do them any favors, but they're not going to take Vanderbilt lightly at this point. Vanderbilt's undefeated. Vanderbilt's ranked. Alabama remembers what happened last year. And Griffin said it best. Kalen DeBoer does not lose at home. All of his losses have come on the road. He's still one of the winningest coaches in college football when you look at the win percentage. And everybody was way too quick to jump on him last year, considering he didn't just take him to a natty and continue the Nick Saban dynasty. But Kalen DeBoer is still an elite college football coach. Bama's going to win this one. I don't think it's going to be big because Vanderbilt is a good team, but Alabama just too much, and Bryant-Denny Stadium going to overpower them. Moving on to the NFL, we've got a fun one, and the headline from this weekend, besides Bad Bunny being the halftime show for the Super Bowl, is that the Chiefs are still the Chiefs. The Chiefs looked terrific yesterday against Baltimore, 37-20, I think the final was in that one. Mahomes, 280 yards, 4 touchdowns. Looked like the Mahomes that we saw terrorize the league for so many years against a Jaguars team that's been sneaky good. They just went and beat San Francisco yesterday. I wasn't expecting it. I had the 49ers in that one. But the Chiefs at the Jags, Monday Night Football this week. Who you got?
I'm going to go Kansas City. I think we all took the medicine of not taking Kansas City last week, and here we are. So I'm going to go back on the train. I think the reacquisition of Xavier Worthy, who is hurt, is going to change how dynamic this Chiefs offense is. And then I also trust Steve Spagnuolo and the Chiefs defense, regardless if Liam Cohen's an offensive mastermind. I think the Chiefs are going to win. They're going to go into Jacksonville and take it.
I would say I love the fire Liam Cohen showed after the game when he stood up to Robert Saleh. That was a great bet, a great little bit for the entire NFL. But I just haven't seen enough promise from this Jaguars passing game in order to actually give confidence for me to pick them over the Chiefs. Whether it's in Jacksonville or it's in Kansas City, and this game happens to be in Jacksonville, so it might give the Jaguars a slight edge, but I'm still going to go with the Chiefs. There was too much that I watched as a Ravens fan to see the Chiefs kind of return back to their form and get to that 2-2. It gave them way too much confidence, I think, which is good for them. Obviously, I'm a little upset about it. But long story short, I do think it was good, and they really were able to get Xavier Worthy into the game as much as possible. He was their leading rusher and their leading receiver, yet he didn't score a touchdown. He had 121 all-purpose yards, and I think they're going to continue building on that up until Rashee Rice comes back, and with next week being out, they've also turned Tyquan Thornton, shockingly, into like a wide receiver one. Like, he looks like a top 20 wide receiver with Patrick Mahomes on the ball, which who doesn't at this point? So with that being said, I do have the Chiefs winning. I could see it being semi of a close game, but personally, I think it's going to be about a 10-point game, and I think the Chiefs will take it away.
Yeah, I'll go with this one again. I'll go with the Chiefs this time. I love what Trevor and them is doing down in Jacksonville. Obviously, this was a big questionable year for Trevor. Obviously, with the big extension a few years ago and performing like a bottom 5 quarterback. Obviously, starting off to a hot start, 3-1 this season. I love the Jags, but they need to be brought back to earth. I don't think they're as good as their record says they are. I think the Chiefs are better than their record says they are as well. Obviously, with Xavier Worthy coming back to the Chiefs, that whole game against the Ravens was flop-sided. I also had the Ravens probably winning that game, and obviously I was proven wrong. I mean, listen, as long as Patrick Mahomes is at quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs, no matter what position they're in, I would not count them out until the clock hits 0. I think the Jags are a great team. I think they're better than they're way better than they were last year. But yet again, I think the Jags are going to be brought back down to earth, and I think the Chiefs will go in and get a pretty good win against the Jags.
Like you said last week, we kind of had to eat our own words after we all picked the Ravens to cover and beat the Chiefs. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go to the Jags and also play that kind of Clemson bias fanboy. Like Pat McAfee owns West Virginia, I will own my Clemson bias. I really like how Trevor Lawrence looks this year. A lot of his interceptions actually aren't on him. One was he got hit as he threw because offensive line, again, is a concern for the Jags, but I think it's good enough to help them get past the Chiefs' defensive line. Brian Thomas dropped one in a game against 2 games ago. I forgot who they played, the Bengals. So I really like how Trevor Lawrence looks. ETN seems to have that burst back. You know, he's been injured these past couple years, and the offensive line has been terrible. I think he's finally got that quickness back. And this is in Jacksonville. There's just something about this Jacksonville team that I really love. They got a lot of fight. I love Liam Cohen. I love his fire. I'm going to go with Jacksonville.
A Jacksonville team that's top 5 in the NFL in points allowed per game. Number 1 in turnovers forced per game. Number 1 in turnover margin. Number 1 in so many categories. Top 5 in total yards. All this stuff leads me that I should pick Jacksonville, right? I'm going to do it because the Chiefs don't convince me playing a subpar. Sorry, Brian. But the Ravens defense is atrocious. There's too many injuries to all the healthy guys, to all the starters. They just looked absolutely terrible with their second team against Kansas City's first. Jacksonville's defense is for real. They've forced 12 turnovers through the first 4 weeks of the season. That's leading the league. I just don't see them slowing down against a Mahomes that is good, but he doesn't have nearly as many weapons as he's had in the past. I think Travis Kelce is getting past his prime. Xavier Worthy coming back did make a big difference, and they were able to get the ball more vertically downfield. But I'm going to take the Jags in this one. I'm riding with the upset, if you will. And last but not least, Thursday Night Football has been really good throughout this season, and it will not disappoint. 49ers, Rams, another NFC West matchup on Amazon Prime. Who's your pick?
I'm going to do 2 things. I'm a big Rams fan, kind of just like on the side. I was a really big supporter of them when they were winning their Super Bowl in 2022. I'm never going to bet with Mac Jones. I think we can all kind of come to the consensus that it's really tough to bet with Mac Jones. And then the Rams are a blocked field goal kick away from being undefeated. I think that we also have to come to the real. They're at home. I love McVay. As long as Matthew Stafford's behind the helm, I'm always going to have faith. I'm going to like the Rams.
Yeah, I'll go on this one as well. I'll go Rams as well. The Niners, their record obviously looks great. They're 3-1, but they are limping to the finish line with a absolutely decimated by injury roster. They obviously lost Nick Bosa for the season, and gosh knows who else is going to drop down dead soon. The Rams are looking really good this season. They've obviously got something clicking on offense. I think Devontae Adams in the pickup was a really big reason for that, and Matthew Stafford honestly returning to Super Bowl-esque form. But I got the Rams winning this one. I think Sean McVay is a mastermind of a head coach, and I think the Niners are just a team limping right now. So, Rams.
I'm also going to say the Rams. Like you said, this 49ers team has just been brutalized by injuries. And then also, like you said, they have a 3-1 record, but they played the Seahawks week 1, solid win, but that was when their team was healthiest. Then they beat the Saints and the Cardinals, and no offense to those teams, I'm not impressed by that. And now you lose to the Jags at home. I mean, I just picked the Jags to beat the Chiefs. I think the Jags are a good team. But I love Matthew Stafford. I love Sean McVay. This is a good Rams team.
I'm going to round this panel with the same exact answer, Rams. I don't like that we all picked the Rams, but at the same time, I don't know how much I trust the 49ers. They are having a little bit of an injury issue right now. You have Christian McCaffrey as your leading receiver and your leading running back, which is going to probably be the big portion of their offense like it has been the last few weeks. And Brock Purdy has returned. He was in last game. I don't know what his status is. I assume he's coming back for this game. I haven't really checked up on that. But he threw for 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I just don't trust it. I love what the Rams are doing. And there is one person, nicknamed Pookaboo. That is Puka Nacua. Dude dropped 170 yards and a touchdown. Shout out Jordan's fantasy team because he did trade for him this week and got him. Dropped 36 points. But we're not talking in fantasy world. We're talking about in the real world. And Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua is absolutely the most dominant, arguably the best wide receiver right now in the NFL, if you want to call it this season alone. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if he continues this up or continues this season this way. I have him being dominated. He is like Waffle House. He's open even when they're closed. So even when he's covered, that made no sense, but he's always open. That's all that matters. I love it. I absolutely love him. And I think that the Rams offense will be able to kind of propel them up to it. The 49ers had 0 sacks last week against a Jaguars team that not really known for their offensive line. Like you said, it's an offensive line issue. They had 0 sacks. Nick Bosa's obviously out with, I believe, a torn ACL. So with all that kind of coming into play, I think this Rams team will be able to propel them to a win, especially behind Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. I have a 31-20 game with the Rams winning at home.
So Katie, one of our Touching All Bases members, is in the studio, and I hope she's listening as I'm mentioning this. So she had a really bad week. Her Astros missed the playoffs. She traded me Puka Nacua for 2 guys that did not combine for 15 points in return, and I got 36 from Puka Nacua. So I'm absolutely sold on the Rams. Puka Nacua, Brian, although he screwed up the analogy, the point is absolutely correct. He is the most unguardable wide receiver in the NFL. You know he's getting the ball 15 times a game, and teams still can't stop it. So I'm going the Rams. They're a block kick away from being undefeated. I think they're arguably a top 3 team in the NFL, and I'm going Rams. Now that's going to wrap up for this week. It's been quite the week, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot more to talk about next time. But for Jack, for Brian, for Griffin, and for Jackson, I'm Jordan York saying so long, and we'll see you next week right here on The Extra Point.